Gideon, also called Jerubbaal, a judge and hero liberator of Israel. The account of Gideon's life is recorded in the book of Judges, chapter 6, 7 and 8. Gideon, whose name means cutter or feller. In the Bible, his name is mentioned 40 times, 39 times in the Old Testament, and one in the book of Hebrews as a man of great faith. He was a shy and perhaps cowardly individual. The story of Gideon and his life begins with God allowing the Israelites to be dominated for 7 years by the Midianites. This was done as punishment for their sins. The Midianites were a wandering band of nomads who, with the help of the Amalekites and others, would make regular incursions into Israel to plunder and destroy their crops and animals. In their need, they cried out to God for His help. In His mercy, God stepped in and decided that Gideon would lead the poverty-stricken, downtrodden, and fearful Israelites to victory. God sends an angel of the Lord to Gideon, who at the time of visit was threshing wheat near a winepress in order to avoid detection. Gideon was commissioned to free the Israelites from their oppressors. His first act, however, was to tear down his father's pagan altar and replace it with one dedicated to the true God. Soon after this event, the Midianites gathered in the valley of Jezreel with the combined strength of huge fighting men. Gideon managed to gather an army of a great number, 32,000 men, to fight against Midianites. But God asked Gideon to reduce the army. Gideon obeyed God's command, and more than 2/3 of his soldiers left the camp and returned their homes. Gideon now had only 10,000 soldiers. God said to Gideon to bring them down to the water. He took men down to the water, and there Gideon was asked by the Lord to separate those who lapped the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneeled down to drink. As God commanded, Gideon kept 300 men who lapped water with their tongues and sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents. Gideon's small force surprised the Midianites encamped in the valley of Jezreel. Each of Gideon's men was given a trumpet and a pitcher. The loud sound of the breaking pitchers and trumpets frightened and confused the enemy. Following the initial night attack, the Midianites fled. Gideon and his men subsequently captured Midianites. This victory was a vivid illustration to Israel of God's power to save His people. God's directions may not always make sense to us. As humans, we are short-sighted and weak. We fall time and again when we trust in our own strength instead of striving to find and to do God's will in our lives. Gideon is an example to listen to God's leading voice in our life. Our enemy is sin, and we are tempted to think that we don't stand a chance to win the battle against sin. But when we put God in charge of leading our decisions, we will become conquerors, just as we read in the Bible story about Gideon.